everyone, and welcome back to the Natural Grocer's 21 Days to a Healthier You program. My name is Erin Dahl, and I am the Senior Nutrition Education Specialist here at Natural Grocers, and I'm your host throughout our series. We are so excited to have you join us for week number 2 of our program. This week is super exciting because we're going to learn how to stop being shazombies, aka sugar zombies, which I'm sure maybe many of us can relate to at least a little bit. We'll also learn how to support healthy blood sugar balance, which is absolutely key and a foundational principle for achieving vibrant health. And guiding us through week 2 today, I have the pleasure of introducing Sarah Caroli, who is our nutritional health coach at one of our Wichita, Kansas stores. Sarah graduated summa cum laude from the University of New Mexico with a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics and has been with Natural Grocers for over 4 years. She is passionate about advocating for high quality food and utilizes an individualized approach when offering nutrition advice. In her spare time, Sarah enjoys cooking, dancing, video games, spending time with her husband, and their very large cat. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to hear what you have to say. Please go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Erin, for the very kind intro. I'm super excited to introduce you all to our second week in our 21 Days to a Healthier You program on kicking sugar cravings. So today we are going to go over a little bit of Blood Sugar 101. We're going to talk about why we get sugar cravings and also how we can use different foods and supplements to support healthy blood sugar balance, normal appetite, and overall good health. So you may ask yourself, why should I concern myself with blood sugar? Maybe you've never been diagnosed with conditions that involve blood sugar balance. But it is important to know that blood sugar balance is foundational to overall health. So each and every one of us can benefit from what I'm going to talk about today. So we need to recognize that we are currently living in a diabetes epidemic. As of 2018, the CDC estimates that about 34 million cases of diabetes have been diagnosed in the United States. And prediabetes is estimated to affect over 88 million adults, and over 84% of those people who are diagnosed don't even realize that they had it. If we continue on this current trend, by the year 2050, it is estimated that 1 in every 3 Americans will be diagnosed with diabetes. So diabetes is a disease that occurs when our body is no longer able to utilize glucose, also known as blood sugar. And because of this, our blood sugar levels remain elevated, and that can cause a lot of damage. And this is why diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death. And having diabetes places us at risk for several other complications and diseases, such as heart disease, stroke, cancer, nerve and dental problems, and also kidney disease, and much more. So in order to understand how we got here, we need to understand how blood sugar balance plays a role in our health. So our body requires a steady supply of glucose that circulates throughout our blood at just the right amounts. So not too much and not too little. If you remember Goldilocks and the three bears, Goldilocks liked her porridge at just the right temperature, so not too hot or not too cold. And our body is similar with how it likes our blood sugar levels. So we need not too much and not too little. And glucose is a sugar that is derived from carbohydrates when we eat them. So you can see pictured here, we have some examples of some classic carbohydrate-rich foods, such as breads, pastas, grains, bagels, corn. Lots of starchy things have a lot of carbohydrates in them. Some other foods that contain natural carbohydrates are fruits and beans and peas. Our liver can also produce small amounts of glucose when we need it. So when our blood sugar levels drop a little too low, our liver can help to produce glucose from its storage form to raise our blood sugar levels back to the normal range. So glucose is used for fuel in our body. So blood sugar allows our cells to create energy, and we use this energy for pretty much everything. We need energy to think, learn, and remember things. We need it for our muscles to move, to dance around, to play. We need it for our cardiovascular system to transport nutrients, oxygen, and to allow our cells to create energy. We also need it for digestion of different foods and absorbing our nutrients and moving those foods throughout our digestive system. So lots of different cells and organs use glucose for fuel on a day-to-day basis, but we actually don't need that much to support all of these different needs. In fact, only about 1 teaspoon of sugar is needed in the bloodstream at any given time to support all of these functions. So let's take a little bit of a dive on what happens when we eat carbohydrate foods. So if we take this example of some spaghetti, so we've got spaghetti that's really starchy. There's a lot of carbohydrates in this kind of food. When we digest carbohydrates, we break down those carbs into glucose. So that feeds our bloodstream with blood sugar. As our blood sugar levels rise, we create a hormone called insulin. And insulin you can think of like a shuttle for glucose. So it's the little car that can drive glucose into our cells to be used as energy. So we require insulin in order to be able to handle our blood sugar levels. So when we eat the spaghetti, we break that down, we get blood sugar, and then we produce insulin. And insulin is going to transport that glucose into first our hungry cells that need it for that energy. And then any excess is going to be moved into our muscle and our liver cells to be stored for later. So our muscles and our liver, they can't really store too much. They can store a bit, but once they are full, we are going to then transform any excess glucose into fat for long-term storage. So once we transform glucose into fat, it's kind of hard to utilize that fat for fuel when we need it quickly. So we want to avoid transforming a lot of glucose into fat because then we get a lot of fat storage. All right, so after we eat a meal with carbohydrates, we have a glycemic response. And the glycemic response simply measures how our blood sugar levels rise and fall after we eat. So this depends on the quality and quantity of carbohydrates in our meal. So if we have either a high quantity of carbohydrates or low quality carbohydrates, we may get a high glycemic response. So if you look on the left at this graph, we see that the high glycemic response is when our blood sugar rises very quickly over a short period of time. So we'll have this big rise and a big crash. And when this happens, we might get that short burst of energy, but we have this flood of glucose coming in. And after our cells are full, we're going to be transforming a lot of that glucose into fat for long-term storage. So we don't want this. On the other hand, a low glycemic response is when we eat foods that are either high quality carbohydrates, so these are carbs that are high in nutrient density, so they have a lot of vitamins and minerals, or they also have a lot of fiber. So if you think sweet potatoes or carrots, these are foods that have both nutrient density, so lots of vitamins, minerals, and they are also rich in fiber. And that fiber helps to slow the glycemic response. So in this case, when we have that low glycemic response, we have more sustained energy and we don't have that big spike. So we are less likely to store glucose as fat. Unfortunately, in our standard American diet, we have a lot of different foods that are either low in quality, so they don't have a lot of nutrient density, or we just have a lot of different carbohydrate-rich foods. So if you look at these foods on the left, you can see some cereal, cookies, soda, a sandwich, and spaghetti. These are all very carbohydrate-rich, and they don't have a lot of vitamins and minerals and good nutrients to support our health. So this is a recipe for high blood sugar. And the standard American diet is abbreviated SAD, and that's actually kind of funny because it is a sad diet, unfortunately. And many of us are on the sad American diet. So when we have a lot of foods that lack protein, that lack healthy fats or good fiber, we raise our blood sugar levels frequently, and this can cause a lot of issues. It can actually put us on what we call the blood sugar roller coaster. So the blood sugar roller coaster is similar to the glycemic response. This shows how our blood sugar levels are rising and falling after we eat. So let's take a look at what's going on here. We have here an example of an unbalanced breakfast. So this may be a breakfast that could be very typical for a lot of us. We have some cold cereal, some skim milk, some orange juice or coffee, or simply just coffee. All of these foods are very rich in carbohydrates. So we have cereal, that's a lot of processed carbs. Skim milk is basically just carbohydrates, it's milk sugar without any good fat. And then orange juice has a lot of sugar as well. All of these carbohydrates are broken down very quickly, so they raise our blood sugar very fast up and out of the normal range. And this is really stressful for our body. So when we have blood sugar levels that are too high, we are going to produce a lot of insulin, and we are also going to put that excess blood sugar into fat storage. So anytime you have your blood sugar levels spiking out of the normal range, that is essentially going to be fat storage mode. Also, we tend to not feel so great when our blood sugar levels are too high. So we might get brain fog and we might also get some mood swings. So at this point, when we are high blood sugar, we produce a ton of insulin. And remember, insulin's job is to move blood sugar into our cells or into storage. So that's going to take out a lot of glucose out of our bloodstream, and it's going to crash our blood sugar levels down to a very low level. So whenever we have a high peak, just like a roller coaster, we are bound to crash very low very quickly. And at this point, at low blood sugar, this is really where we feel cravings. And this is because our cells are starved for energy. So we need that glucose for quick energy, and our brain knows this. So this is why we tend to crave different kinds of quick carbohydrate foods like donuts or pancakes or breads. And if we give into these cravings, we will also raise our blood sugar levels once again. And this whole cycle can continue as long as we continue to eat unbalanced meals. I do want to take a little note too that at low blood sugar levels, we will also begin to produce stress hormone, which is also known as cortisol. And cortisol can also play a big role in dysregulating our blood sugar levels and causing harm to our health. So, if we allow ourselves to remain on the blood sugar roller coaster, this can have some serious health consequences, and we can feel it pretty immediately. So, if we have a poorly balanced breakfast, so if we have a stack of pancakes, we might find that we are very hungry even just an hour or so later. We might find that we don't have a lot of energy in the afternoon. We might get very tired. We might have brain fog. Our moods might swing up and down. And this can also cause a lot of inflammation within our body that may not necessarily even be felt. So I want to show you a little bit what insulin resistance might look like. So if we continue to remain on the blood sugar roller coaster, if we are always spiking our blood sugar, eventually our cells may begin to stop listening to insulin's signal. So you can think of this like this picture here. We have this guard, and the guard is insulin, and he is guarding the gate that is the entrance to our cells. So glucose over here wants to get into our cells so that it can feed our cells and provide energy. So it's insulin's job to push the buzzer to open the gate to allow glucose in. And normally this works without any issue if we don't have a lot of glucose coming in all the time. Unfortunately, over time, we may develop insulin resistance. So this is as if the buzzer to the gate stops working. So insulin might push that buzzer, but if it's not working, it cannot open and it cannot allow glucose into our cells. So if glucose can't get in, we'll have this buildup of glucose in our bloodstream that can't go anywhere. And so we have chronically elevated blood sugar levels. And we can see this on the insulin resistant blood sugar roller coaster. So if we take our unbalanced breakfast again, we've got our carbohydrate rich meal. We spike our blood sugar and we are up and out of the normal range. And if we develop insulin resistance, our cells are not going to listen to insulin signals. So we cannot let glucose into our cells. So we can't bring our blood sugar levels back down to a normal range as effectively. So Then what we're left with by the time it's a couple hours after our meal, we are still on the higher end of the normal blood sugar range. So our body will actually have more cravings for more energy. And this may prompt us to grab a quick snack like a cookie or a bag of chips. And if we feed ourselves those extra carbohydrates again, we're going to spike our blood sugar once more. And now this time we are at a level that's even higher than before. And if insulin cannot get our glucose into our cells, we cannot bring our blood sugar back down effectively. So essentially, this leaves us with chronically elevated blood sugar levels. If we continue on this path, this can eventually lead to chronic disease. So there are a lot of diseases that have a root in insulin resistance and high blood sugar, including arthritis and diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. This can also actually begin to affect our brain activity too. So our brain cells need glucose for energy, just like all of our other tissues. And if we have insulin resistance, this can also impair that ability to give our brain fuel for energy. Unfortunately, our diet is not the only factor that contributes to insulin resistance. There are a lot of different factors within our environment and our lifestyle that can also contribute. So if we are not sleeping well, or if we are very chronically stressed, this affects our blood sugar levels and can lead to insulin resistance. If we are physically inactive, this can also play a role. Exercise can support insulin sensitivity, so it just helps with normal insulin function. And if we are a couch potato, this can impair that. Even pesticides or toxins and plastics in our environment can disrupt hormones like insulin, which can then lead to insulin resistance. So we have to take into account all of these different factors that may contribute. And if we are not careful about our environment, our diet, or our lifestyle, or if we are stuck in a stressful job, or if we don't sleep very well, we can be caught in a dangerous cycle because all of these factors can worsen one another and create a overwhelming wave of inflammation, chronically high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and then eventually chronic disease. But luckily, we have the power to stop this cycle through changing our diet, through modifying our lifestyle, and being mindful of our environment. So it's good to think to yourself, what are some modifiable diet and lifestyle factors that contribute to the dangerous cycle in your own life? Are you somebody who doesn't always choose organic foods? Or are you someone who doesn't manage stress very well, or stays up very late at night, or tends to eat foods on the standard American diet? Any of those factors can contribute, so it's good to find one that you can make a practical goal with improving, and that'll contribute to stopping the cycle. One of the easiest ways we can do this is simply just focusing on our diet because it's a great place to start. So before we had the blood sugar roller coaster, and this is the ride you don't want to be on. Now we have the blood sugar lazy river. And when I was younger and I went to water parks, the lazy river was actually one of my favorite things to go on because it was so relaxing and calm. So this is similar when we are supporting healthy blood sugar balance, our body feels very good and we are able to maintain sustained energy, we have better moods, we have better brain energy for cognition. So how do we do this? We have a new example of a balanced breakfast. So instead of all of those low quality carbohydrates, we now have some good healthy fats, proteins, and fibers. So we have 2 whole eggs, that's going to provide some protein and fat. We have a cup of spinach, which is great for being very nutrient dense. It provides a lot of vitamins, minerals, and it also provides fiber. We have a little bit of some full fat cheese, preferably organic, and the cheese provides healthy fats. So this is good news for cheese lovers like me. And then you can have maybe some berries on the side. So berries are also very nutrient dense. They provide a lot of antioxidants, and they also have some good fiber, and they are very low sugar for a fruit. And then maybe instead of some coffee, we might have some green tea because caffeine can actually affect our blood sugar levels as well. So when we have all of these fats, protein, and fiber and nutrients, we have a steady and small increase in our blood sugar level that rises and falls more like a smooth wave. So when we remain in normal blood sugar level range, we don't have those spikes and crashes. So we don't get cravings. We also have better energy, and we can manage our stress levels better, actually, because we are not dipping too low where we have to call upon stress hormone to help out. So this is the area we want to be in, and this is the target for utilizing our foods to support healthy blood sugar balance. You can do this by following the healthy meal wheel, which you were all introduced to on our week 1 class. So essentially, we want to focus on vegetables. That's really a great way to start with any kind of healthy eating is get some veggies on your plate. And these veggies provide a lot of fiber and so many of our needed nutrients like magnesium, beta carotene for our eyes and for our immune system. We need it for B vitamins like folate, which is heavily used in our nervous system. And a lot of these nutrients also are critical for blood sugar balance and insulin function. And with our veggies, we need to think about pairing that with some quality protein and some good healthy fats. Protein and fats help to slow digestion, and they help to maintain a normal glycemic response. And then in moderation, we can enjoy some delicious sweet fruit and some whole food, high quality carbohydrates. So things like sweet potatoes, beans, peas, those whole food types of carbs are much, much better than processed carbohydrates in supporting healthy blood sugar balance. And we can also use some natural sweeteners if you would like a little sweetness in your life, like maple syrup, honey, or blackstrap molasses. These are all great options. They are unprocessed, so they maintain their natural trace minerals and vitamins. But you do want to keep in mind that these are still sweeteners, so they can still raise your blood sugar levels if you have too much. And these might be a little problematic for somebody who is struggling a lot with maintaining healthy blood sugar balance. So it's good to use these in moderation. One of my favorite snacks that I like is some full fat Greek yogurt that's organic with a little bit of honey and cinnamon. And this is just enough sweetness to make it tasty, and it's not going to affect our blood sugar level in a big way. We can also use non-nutritive sweeteners. So these are natural sweeteners that don't affect blood sugar level, but they are also not artificial. So these include things like stevia, monk fruit, and sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols are naturally found in some fruits as well. And you can utilize these if you tend to struggle a bit more with blood sugar balance, or if you just want to go the extra step and try to eliminate sugars from your diet. So these provide a nice sweet taste. My favorite is monk fruit out of these options because you can bake with monk fruit if you need to, and it doesn't affect the taste. You can use it in pretty much anything. You could put it in your drinks if you want a little sweetness. And I think personally it tastes one of the best out of these options. I want to also note that Natural Grocers does not carry any artificial sweeteners, things like sucralose or aspartame, because these are associated with weight gain, obesity, and they can kind of trick our brains into dysregulating our blood sugar levels as well. So these are really not good sweeteners to have incorporated in the diet. And if you shop with us, you don't have to worry as much about label reading because we will not carry any products with artificial sweeteners. We want to consider a healthy lifestyle as well. So if you eat perfectly, that's great. But if you are also stressed at the same time or not getting enough sleep, that's going to put a big damper on your efforts to support healthy blood sugar balance. So people who don't get enough sleep at night can sometimes get cravings just from that. If you are somebody that stays up late, practicing good sleep hygiene is really critical. So part of this is turning down our screens maybe an hour or so before bed, creating a normal sleep routine. So taking some time to dim the lights and create an environment that supports good, healthy sleep. We also want to prioritize organic foods because pesticides can interfere with hormones like insulin. So fruits and veggies, this is really critical. Also with dairy or animal products, choosing organic does make a huge difference. Reducing our plastic use. So if you can find a reusable stainless steel cup to put your drinks in, or reducing the amount of plastics that you heat your foods in, this can also help with supporting insulin's function because different plastics can have hormone disruptors too. And then being physically active. So this can be as simple as taking walks after your meal, maybe parking at the back of the parking lot so you have to walk a little further to where you're going, or taking the stairs instead of the escalator. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to get a gym membership to be healthy. Finding different ways to stay active can be very, very simple, and you don't need any special equipment to do that. So supplements can be an excellent tool for supporting not only healthy blood sugar balance, but our overall well-being. And if you're new to supplements, using the foundational 5 is a great place to start. So our foundational 5 are 5 different supplements that do a whole lot of different good things, but they are also critical in our diet. And some of them are ones that we tend to have trouble getting through our foods. So you can see here we are starting with a multivitamin. This is a great way to get some nutritional insurance to make sure you're covering your bases and making sure that you get some of those harder to get vitamins and minerals. And then magnesium is also really important. This is the also known as the master relaxing mineral. So this is a great mineral for stress management, but also for insulin function too. And magnesium plays a big role in turning our food into energy. So this is one that we definitely tend to struggle with getting enough through our foods. The richest sources are in our greens, and almonds, and in some really dark chocolate. But even if you're good with that, sometimes we just can't get quite enough. So this is where a supplement becomes very helpful to get your magnesium needs. Next is EPA/DHA. These are fish oil fats. So these are really critical for supporting a healthy inflammatory response, and they are also critical for our brain and for a normal glucose response as well. And if you hate fish, this is a definite one to put on your list, because every single one of us requires omega-3s for so many different functions. Next is vitamin D and super nutrients, and we're going to go over these in a little bit more detail. Super nutrients are essentially just targeted supplements to meet your specific goals. So today we're going to talk about some different super nutrients that specifically address blood sugar balance. One of them is vitamin D, and this is probably my favorite vitamin. It is also known as the sunshine vitamin because we can also get vitamin D from spending time in the sun. And a lot of us struggle with getting enough, especially now that we are in the colder months or every single time we are entering fall or winter. As the sun goes down and we spend more time indoors, this is where vitamin D supplementation becomes very critical. And if you are not too sure where to start with vitamin D supplements, it's great to get your levels tested so you can ask your doctor. These are really simple, easy tests to get done, and it helps to see where you're at to see what kinds of supplement might be best for you if you need it. Vitamin D overall does a lot of different things, but it does support healthy insulin function, which is necessary for a normal glucose response. A 2020 meta-analysis that included 8 different studies found that vitamin D supplementation was able to support a healthy glucose response following meals. Vitamin D is also just a really good happy vitamin, so it's great for supporting positive mood too. Next, we have chromium, and chromium is a trace mineral that is essential for carbohydrate metabolism. So this helps to transform our carbs into fuel to be used for energy. It also supports healthy insulin function too. So chromium is widespread throughout different foods, and we only need a small amount. But broccoli is a good source in general. It kind of depends on the soil health where that broccoli was grown. Um, Overall, around a cup of broccoli can get about 88% of your daily value for most people. So supplementing can be very helpful if you tend to struggle and need a little extra support for healthy blood sugar balance. And the one pictured here, Chromium picolinate, that's a really popular form to choose if you don't really know where to start. Next, we have lovely cinnamon, which is one of my favorite spices. Cinnamon has been shown time and time again to support a healthy glucose response by supporting insulin sensitivity, acting as a free radical scavenger, and modulating inflammation. A 2020 study also found people taking supplements of 500 milligrams of cinnamon 3 times a day were able to support a healthy glucose response. So cinnamon doesn't necessarily have to be in a supplement to get those benefits. You can also use it just in your day-to-day foods. So you can sprinkle some in your tea or your coffee. You can put some in some yogurt. That's one of my favorites. Or just utilizing more cinnamon, even in things like curry dishes or things with a lot of spices. Cinnamon can really be helpful for rounding the flavor out and also just adding that extra kick, and you do get those nice benefits too. Next, we have berberine, which is another one of my favorites. Berberine you may not have heard of, but it is really a superstar for providing so many different benefits. Berberine is a phytonutrient, so this is a plant compound that is commonly found in different plants like Oregon grape, golden seal, and barberry. Pictured here, you can see some beautiful barberries. Berberine has been shown to support a healthy glucose response and insulin sensitivity by modulating inflammation. And berberine is a really neat compound that can also support the good bacteria in our gut. And that does play a role with blood sugar balance and healthy moods. It can also activate a particular enzyme called AMPK. And this enzyme is also activated when we exercise. So berberine can actually give you similar benefits to exercise as well. It's really cool for overall metabolic support and healthy weight management, but blood sugar balance is really where it shines. And last but not least, we have alpha lipoic acid. So alpha lipoic acid provides comprehensive blood sugar support. So this is targeting blood sugar at all angles by supporting healthy insulin function, glucose utilization. It does help to modulate inflammation and scavenges free radicals. A 2017 study done on mice found that alpha lipoic acid supported glucose utilization in the brain, which is necessary for cognitive function. So this means that alpha lipoic acid can also help with brain energy and brain function. And we can utilize supplements as vital tools for overall health, but we want to take a comprehensive approach to lead to long-term success. So in summary, we can support healthy blood sugar balance through our meals, but we want to also be mindful of the environment that we live in and utilize targeted supplements as needed. And overall, when we do this, we will be rooted in health and we can support our goals. So each and every one of us can choose one area that we might struggle with on this list and make some achievable goals to start with. If you are looking for additional support, you can head on over to our website, naturalgrocers.com, to connect with one of us health coaches for your free nutritional health coaching. You can also find some healthy, delicious recipes and access to free nutrition articles there as well. In each and every one of our stores, we also have a book nook that has a plethora of books on blood sugar balance, but also on a variety of health topics. So I want to take the time now to thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot about sugar cravings and how to kiss them goodbye once and for all. So with that, I am going to pass it back to Erin. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us on all things healthy blood sugar balance. I've also found the Natural Grocers Blood Sugar Roller Coaster to be such an invaluable and helpful resource when it comes to understanding why maintaining healthy blood sugar levels in the body is so important for our health. So I really appreciate you taking the time to go over that with us today. So before we end, just a few reminders. If you're looking for ways to connect with one of our nutritional health coaches, they are also available to present a free class to your organization or group on a nutrition topic of your choice, which is pretty cool. Additionally, they also offer free health coaching sessions, as Sarah said, said, these are hour-long sessions that are a great resource for those of you who are looking for additional support and tailored nutrition recommendations. So for more information or to find a nutritional health coach near you, just visit us at naturalgrocers.com. Finally, don't forget to check out week number 3 of our 21 Days to a Healthier You program, where we'll be discovering how to reduce your toxic burden, as well as how to support daily detoxification. So get excited for that. And sorry to say it, guys, but that wraps up our class. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.